It is a great day because the Dubs are all down. Oregon beats Washington 26-14. I'm going to have a lot of fun on this program, everybody. I think you will too.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for a reaction episode of Locked On Ducks. All business today. Didn't have time to ditch the suit. Too urgently needed to get right here on this program. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view post Oregon's rivalry win, playoff clinching victory, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. I will have the biggest moments to react to. I have so many thoughts, and they are just about all really good. 26-14, and you know what? Oregon showed up and played a good football game. Dante Moore outplayed Damon Williams. Anybody that tells you they'd rather have Damon Williams than Dante Moore has to be quiet today. You can't make that argument here because Dante Moore wildly outplayed Damon Williams in this game. Dante Moore finishes 20 of 29 for 286 and a touchdown. He could have had over 300 yards if Kenyon Sadiq had helped him out on a 50-50 ball and if the officials had properly officiated the greatest non-catch in the history of football made by Jeremiah McLaughlin. Alas, they didn't. Oregon overcame all of that anyway and got the win. Oregon had 392 yards of total offense in this game. Washington did not even hit the 300 mark. This was one of the best big games from Tosh Lupoy and that defense that I can remember. It's one of the best he's ever done at Oregon. When you consider the stakes, and this is why Oregon should have plenty of confidence going into the college football playoff. Last week against USC felt like the offense kind of had to bail out the defense a bit. This week, it was defense and special teams that won it. And I'm not going a single second longer on this show without shouting out ice cold Atticus Sappington. This guy hits a career long, first of all, and it was nice for an Oregon kicker to do that when it felt like every other kicker that the Ducks played this season was pulling that off time and time again. And for him to go out there and be 4 of 4 with a long of 51 yards, it was spectacularly good. Spectacularly good. Malik Benson with the big play late. I'll have some thoughts on that later. This was an intensely satisfying game to watch. The end of the first half was not. Oregon botched the end of the first half. And Dan Lanning outcoached Jedd Fisch. Again, he's 3-0 against Jedd Fisch. Every win has been by at least 12 points. This is actually the closest margin of victory that Jedd has gotten to Dan Lanning yet. Maybe he wants the Florida job. I don't know. Just to get away from Lanning. Anyway, so for Oregon in this game, I know after the games that Oregon's lost, I've had a consistent theme at times because it's been true, whether it's Indiana or Ohio State. The last 2 games that Oregon has lost, I've said, man, they got outcoached. Oregon did the outcoaching today across the board. Yeah. Washington's defense coordinator, Ryan Walters, did a good job with that unit, forcing Oregon into field goals. And guess what? Dan Lanning learned from his mistakes of the past. He took points. That's how you win games. And no, it wasn't perfect. But again, sometimes like Washington brought a really complicated pressure scheme on 1 3rd down that kept Oregon off the field. A couple times they kept themselves from being able to go down and score touchdowns. But fundamentally, the right coaching decisions were made aside from the end of the half. And Oregon's staff, you got 3 matchups, head coach against head coach. I guess it's a little different because Jedd Fisch calls the plays. You've got defensive coordinator against offensive coordinator, OC versus DC. Oregon, 3 for 3 in this game. Was the offense perfect? Nope. Offense couldn't run the ball. That might be my favorite part about this game and why I want to talk a lot about Dante Moore first. Usually I save that for the end. Oregon ran for 2.5 yards a carry and just 106 yards as a team. I mean, they were bottled up in this one. Credit Washington's defense. Washington is a good team. Their defense is well coached, and they played incredibly well. And they beat Oregon a lot up front. And they also had the right scheme to take away what Oregon wanted to do running the football. And guess what? Oregon, still in a couple key spots, was able to run successfully. I'm going to start the second segment with the most hilarious play call of this game that most of you probably don't know, but makes this win even more enjoyable for Duck fans. But the fact that they can just go to a straight drop back passing game, even though no Evan Stewart, no DeCorian Moore, no Gary Bryant. And man, the tight end showed up big time. Jamari Johnson, man, absolute stud. Kenyon Sadiq had 4 catches for 11 yards, and yet Dante went for 286 and a score, no interceptions. He was sacked. He was sacked twice. Oregon had 4 sacks of Damon Williams. Didn't always get pressure in big spots, but overall, I thought they did a good job in that regard. Damon Williams had 10 carries for 27 yards. My keys going into this game were limit the explosives. Yeah, they did that. Washington's longest offensive play was 24 yards. Contain Damon Williams. Yeah, they did that. 27 yards rushing. And then establish the run early. They didn't do that. But Oregon hit 2 out of those 3 keys to the game that I laid out. And what do you know? They win the game by double digits on the road. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal win for the Ducks. They are 100% going to make the college football playoff. I'd say there's still chaos that could transpire to where they're not playing a home game. They could wind up going forward further and getting a bye. It's hard to see them getting all the way up to 4. They could jump to 5, but I want there to be a home playoff game at Autzen Stadium. I've said that all year. I also have to shout myself out just a little because this is 2 straight seasons where I have predicted Oregon's regular season record right on the money. 12-0 last year, 11-1 this year. This is a phenomenal coaching job by Dan Lanning and his staff. The preparation they did, the execution, man, they did a lot of things right. Not everything, but they did a lot of things right. And for them to go win this game, Washington's a good team. Washington's a good team, man. I talked about the stakes for Dan Lanning going into this one, because if you lost this game where you've got the better team on paper, doesn't mean you're automatically going to win, because you're not. Because Washington's good, and they're at home, and you were going to get Washington's best punch, and Oregon was just ready for it over and over again. And yeah, it was a close game, and it was one possession game at one point in the fourth quarter, and then Malik Benson turned it on. But this game was more likely to be Oregon by 25-30 than it was for Washington to win with the way it played out. I'm not saying that that's how I felt going into it. It wasn't. But Oregon was this close a couple times to breaking it open. And if I gave coordinator grades, which I'll do here, I'll say Tosh LaPointe in the defense get an A-, and Will Stein in the offense, B- to a B in that sort of range, which, by the way, usually going to be enough, especially in this spot. So for Dan Lanning to win this game in Seattle with so much on the line to lock in your spot to the college football playoff for a second straight season, that is an outstanding win. And Oregon fans, you get to relish in that for the next year. And Washington fans just have to sit with it. They've just got to walk and sulk home from Husky Stadium knowing that Oregon walked in and beat them again. And it's probably got them thinking, are we about to go on another 12-year run and not beating Oregon? Well, Jedd Fisch hasn't played a single-digit game against Dan Lanning yet. Almost did in this one, but Malik Benson had other ideas. So keep leaving your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Man, that was a really fun game to watch. Incredible fourth quarter. The offense executed, and there are a couple plays there where, man, Oregon just delivered. They just flat out delivered. The biggest moments and thoughts on those coming up next, after we talk about Omaha Steaks, which I could use right now. It's been a long day. I haven't eaten a ton. I just want all of you to know that I decided to forego putting on more comfortable clothes or eating dinner because I wanted to get you a live show as soon as possible. Omaha Steaks sound really good. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door, or yours. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. And the meat is exactly what you hope for. Tender steaks, rich flavor, and the meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking easier. You will love those as well. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com. I really want a steak right now. Man, should have placed an order ahead of time. Come on, Spencer, figure it out. 50% off site-wide when you go to omahasteaks.com, and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. COLLEGE, college. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. Live, victorious, and glorious second segment sip. Man, what a great day. I think it's a great time to just give another dubs down because that's the mood at the moment. So, couple of plays that I wanted to watch, that I wanted to recap in this moment because holy smokes. The utter hilariousness. Most of you aren't going to know this, and you're welcome for having a college football sicko memory of a brain. So in the first half, Oregon ran a play to Noah Whittington on a third down and I think 2. And they ran a speed option to the boundary. Now, I don't know if Lanning did this intentionally or if it was just the play that they had worked on or one of the plays they'd worked on in short yardage coming into this game. But if you've got a Washington friend out there and you want to throw a little jab at him, point out that speed option to the boundary kept a drive going for Oregon. Because last year, in Seattle, not a Husky Stadium, at Lumen Field where the Seahawks play, they played the Apple Cup against Washington State, and they lost on a goal-to-go situation. They ran speed option into the boundary, and Washington State stuffed it. Now, we have seen Dan Lanning do some truly hilarious and awesome things to motivate his team and have those little messages throughout the week. If that play was installed just because it didn't work for Washington last year, it's probably a coincidence. I'm just throwing it out there. That's one I wanted to start with because of the potential hilariousness of it. So, second one. I'll go Malik Benson. Oh my goodness. Oregon gives up the 4th and 8, which by the way was not offensive pass interference. Washington did get away with that on the third down earlier in the drive. The guy just blocks Theron Johnson out of the way for Denzel Boston to get the first. On 4th and 8, when they ran the crossers concept, was not OPI. It's a good play design. Oregon didn't get enough pressure, had too much time to develop. So Washington makes that play. And all of a sudden, I don't know about all of you, but I was thinking back to the 2022 and 23 games going, oh man, Oregon has been in control the whole game, and they kept settling for field goals because they couldn't punch it. Is it going to come back to bite? And then they start the drive, and they go incompletion to Kenyon Sadiq. Dante Moore's just a fraction late. It was there, but they couldn't make the connection. Sadiq could have caught it, but it would have been really, really hard. But something that he's capable of doing, for sure. He did not have his best game today, and still Dante went for 286 and a touchdown. And then they run the ball, and again, there was nothing there all day. Nothing. And then, on 3rd down and 8, Freaky Leak shows up and busts it 64 yards. Dude hit the accelerator and pushed his foot to the floor. When he split those two defenders and took off, my first thought was, whoa, what a burst. My second thought was Micah Pittman, hello end zone, 2019 game. And man, Dante Moore is given time by the offensive line, who were not great run blocking, but did a good job in pass protection today. They hold up on 3rd and long. And Dante Moore, man, he and Will Stein have worked to make him such a better and different football player than what he used to be. Because he gets through his progressions. I think Benson was his 3rd look and he just layers it over the linebackers, keeps them in stride, and Malik Benson does the rest. And that was the last point scored in the entire game. So, man, that was a big time moment. This is the only border war that Malik Benson will ever play in. And he did that. So that was pretty awesome to watch across the board. Just such a big play with no DeCorian or Gary Bryant, and they haven't had Evan Stewart all year. And then Jamari Johnson was dinged up from time to time. He played great today. Kenyon Sadiq got a little dinged up. He should have had a touchdown. Dante needed to throw him a better ball. Those two were they were right there several times. The fade route, Sadiq's got to make that play. The crossing route, Sadiq can make that catch. Dante's got to put a better ball on him. And then the diving effort where Sadiq got shaken up, Dante's got to be able to hit him for a touchdown there. But all of that, Sadiq 4 catches for 11 yards, and Dante Moore's just playing really good football. Really good football. And Will Stein is calling a really good game. And Malik Benson, the first Oregon player to have a 100-yard game this year. Jeremiah McLaughlin would have had one had they called that catch correctly. So those were a couple of the moments. And then Atticus Sappington. Dude, this guy, ice cold Atticus. I don't think I'm ever going to call him anything else until something changes. The conditions weren't crazy difficult or anything like that. But man, never again should we undervalue having a good kicker, because what would happen, not just from a points perspective, from a momentum standpoint, what would that game have been if Atticus wasn't stepping up absolute nails time and again? And 51, he never hit. Oregon made a 50-yard field goal last year. Sappington's long, I think, was 44, and he just stepped up. And Dan had the confidence in it, and he drilled it. Man, that was money. Looked like a tight Rory McIlroy draw off the tee. Just starts a little right, gently peels, and splits the uprights for 3 points. So that was huge. And then the play to Benson, of course. And then the defense. The defense coming up with that stop. Brandon Finney, my man, got back to being Brandon Finney in this game. The pass breakup in the end zone on their true freshman wideout, what's his name? I think Desmond Roebuck is their true freshman. By the way, Mekhi Lemon last week, 7 catches, 34 yards, 2 touchdowns. Oregon gave up over 300 yards. Remember when I said my concern for the secondary was a 3? There's an NFL receiver over there, early round draft pick in Denzel Boston, and Damon Williams has been explosive this year. And Desmond Roebuck, the true freshman, was their leading receiver. 2 catches for 27 yards. Yeah, last week feels like a one-off in this spot, because the secondary, there was nowhere to throw the football a lot of the time. They were incredibly good. Washington doesn't have the same receiving core that USC does, but man, they put the same game plan on Denzel Boston. And yeah, dude had 2 touchdowns. That's going to happen. He had 4 catches for 25 yards. 4 catches for 25 yards. Man, Oregon secondary played really, really well. But that last play, your best guy against our best guy. Denzel Boston against Brandon Finney. And Brandon Finney makes the play. It was close. He was down short. They didn't overturn the call, nor should they have. And then once Oregon started running the ball a little, was ironically when Washington and everyone knew they were going to start running the football. But they get down there, 4th and 1. They get a first down. They ice the game. And otherwise, Washington's got to go over 90 yards and such. That play call was there. It was a little cute, but Oregon's run it before. They ran it in overtime against Penn State. You know, you have 21 personnel on the field, 2 backs, 1 tight end, and then it's a shovel option. So you're sweeping, you're showing a sweep action with one of the running backs, who's Noah Whittington, and then you wrap the tight end around, and if they rush upfield, you shovel it to the tight end. And Jamari Johnson scored a touchdown against Penn State. Sadiq would have had the first down. Noah Whittington messed that up. That was not on Dante Moore. That was not on Will Stein. Noah Whittington messed that play up. And Whittington did enough today. Didn't have a lot of places to run. He was Oregon's leading rusher, 17 carries for 47 yards. But he pulled that ball from Dante Moore, who did not want to give it to him. And when you get in those moments, you want to make the big play, and the selfishness can come out. And he's just got to trust Dante to make that read. And it's a first down, maybe a touchdown, and the score is not even as close as it was. And then the defense did what? Came up with a sack. Kept Washington behind the chains. And then Damon Williams with a chuck and duck, and Dylan Thieneman was out there fielding a punt on the second interception. So Damon Williams, who, as I said during the week, good football player. He did not look like a good football player in this game, and that's because of what Oregon's defense did. The game plan and execution was really good. Yeah, Washington ran the ball sometimes, but you kept the Huskies under 300 yards at home. Weather conditions weren't insane, perfectly feasible to throw the ball. And Damon Williams goes 15 of 30 for 129 yards, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, and 4.3 yards per attempt. That is a glorious stat line if you are an Oregon fan. Truly, truly glorious. The Damon Williams, Dante Moore discussion, that's over for now. That is done. We just watched it play out. I know who I'd rather have. And boy, I'm glad he's Oregon's quarterback, because he played a heck of a football game. And I don't think Oregon's sack numbers, which were 4, by the way. Yeah, Oregon had 4 sacks in this game. Tatum Tuiyoti's a football player and a really good one. But Nasir Wyatt, stud. Oregon had 4 sacks in this game. I think they generated more pressure than that. I think they could have had bigger sack numbers, but they were gambling, or they would have been gambling, to let Damon Williams get out and run a little more. The broadcast talked about this at one point, a couple of times, and I think they were correct that Oregon was trying to do kind of a mud, what do they call it, a muddy rush or a muddled rush. Basically, don't try to get the quarterback, just squeeze him into the pocket. And Oregon did a really good job with that. Damon Williams' legs were not a factor in this game. Jonah Coleman just can't get going against the Oregon defense. Did not have a carry of 10 or more yards. And Adam Muhammad was running the ball really well, so why wouldn't you go to the other guy? But 2 years in a row, Jonah Coleman has just done nothing against this Oregon defense. 9 carries for 22 yards. That's 2.4 yards a carry. Oregon's defense went up and won that football game. That was such a great performance and a great statement for Oregon to make, and a confidence booster, and one that I imagine for all you fans out there, and trust me, I was feeling it too, intensely satisfying for a number of reasons. And I will talk about that coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. I was 1 point away from having Oregon's point total exactly, but they did better defensively than I was expecting. I thought Washington would have one more touchdown, and they did not. I had 27-23, 26-14 final. I'll take it. They covered the 6.5 point spread. Who says you take points in a rivalry game? Oregon says, to heck with that, and beat the Huskies by 12. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. So, we don't know who Oregon's going to play in the college football playoff, likely at Autzen Stadium. I certainly hope so. If it is, I am going to do everything in my power to be there. And hopefully I could run into some of you, as I did in Vegas earlier in the week. So, right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel. I need a third segment sip. The official sports betting partner of the NBA. Badly needed third segment sip. Boy, we were running low. Long time in the button down and tie. It's been a long. Maybe it's just running me dry a little bit, but it's okay. We're replenished. We're ready to roll. So, a few things for Oregon fans out there. Beating Washington for a second straight year by double digits feels incredibly good. Washington would have been able to hold over Oregon's head that any time it's a big game, Dan Lanning doesn't, can't say that anymore. Washington had a year to get their program moving on the upward direction, which they are. They absolutely are, and they are not where Oregon is at. All that is really satisfying. You get another year of smack talking the Huskies and reminding them who runs West Coast football, because Oregon just proved it. Oregon just went through a tough November slate. Iowa, by the way, dominated their last game, finished 8-4. USC, as I record this show, is actually tied with UCLA inexplicably. I think they will wind up being fine. They go on the road. Oregon left no doubt in this game. No doubt that they're good enough to go to the playoff. No doubt that all the commentary about, well, who's Oregon beat? Well, Penn State isn't actually good. They just went into this game and outplayed Washington, outcoached them, outplayed them, and they've got the better roster as well. Here's one of my favorite ones, and I know some of you in particular are going to appreciate it once I crystallize this thought, which you might have already had. The whole Oregon doesn't develop crowd, which is very prominent amongst the Husky fan base as much as any. I think USC is in there as well. They're having a tough day. Tough day for the Oregon doesn't develop crowd. Because Damon Williams, their star quarterback, just had a horrifically awful game, statistically. So if you don't want to count that, then okay. But against an Oregon defense that's got a trio of linebackers that goes as follows: a former 0-star safety recruit, a third-year, three-star linebacker in Jerry Mixon, and a fourth-year Duck who is starting for the first time in Devin Jackson. Then you've got true freshman Brandon Finney, who helped put the absolute clamps on their guy Denzel Boston, who's one of their star recruiting development pieces from the last couple of years. He's really good. He was almost nowhere to be found in this game. Yep, he found the end zone twice. I'll give you that if it means that Denzel Boston's having 25 receiving yards in this game. And then, once again, Oregon was the better team up front. The defensive line didn't let Washington have explosives in the run game, which Muhammad is incredibly capable of. And they sacked Damon Williams 4 times and were a big part of him having a 50% completion, a defensive line that's got one transfer on it. And one of the early plays in the game, Nasir Wyatt, smack! Oh, man. Damon Williams got hit a lot in this football game. 25 yards, by the way, is the lowest receiving yardage output for Denzel Boston this season. Third time he has had 2 touchdowns in the game. It was a good design. It was a good design by Jedd Fisch. They executed it very well. And Oregon was just better across the board. So, yeah, this is a game that if you're an Oregon fan, you just relish. You get the chance to talk smack to your Husky friends or family members. I mean, my mom's a big Husky. Trust me, I'm not crossing that line. I'd like to be fed when I go home for the holidays, you know? But, yeah, I think that Oregon just, everything that, you know, I've talked about and that has been celebrated with this team and the program for the last several years, it was all out there on the field. Dante Moore coming and developing for a year. There's another angle for that. The offensive line that has rotated guys a lot. And look, didn't have their best day, but certainly did enough. And for the defense to play as well as it did, man, the defense was so awesome in this game. So unbelievably awesome. So, by the way, is Washington off a bye in this spot? Am I seeing that correctly? I might have just forgotten to note that throughout the course of the year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No. That's just Denzel Boston, his game log, because he didn't play last week. I was like, man, I feel like I would have remembered that. No, they played last week and beat the crap out of UCLA on the road. Is that Jedd Fisch's new job? I don't know. We'll find out. I don't think so. I know that Washington presented Jedd Fisch with an extension. Hey, man, go for it. Go for it. I think Dan Lanning is in a pretty good spot. Of all the things and teams and programs to worry about going forward, yep, Jedd Fisch could keep doing a good job. He stays at Washington. and could make a better team than the one that was on the field on Saturday. But he had a good team, and he was at home, and lo and behold, Oregon still goes out and wins. So winning on the road, that's just the second time the Huskies have lost at home in the last, I think, 2 or 3 years. The other time was Ohio State earlier this season. And, yeah, this is a good win for Oregon. Now, for the college football playoff, the first round, I believe, is slated for December 19th or 20th. And, again, Oregon doesn't just have to wait for the rest of Rivalry Saturday to play out. They have to wait for Conference Championship weekend to play out in order to see where things are going to fall. So I'll leave you guys with this. The Big 12 championship game definitely matters. And BYU plays Texas Tech. They are both 11-1. BYU is currently and ridiculously on the outside looking in. Now, if BYU beats Texas Tech, they'll automatically be in as one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions. Texas Tech, if they win, they will guaranteed stay ahead of Oregon in the playoff rankings. And so Oregon came into this week as the 6th seed. They jumped Ole Miss, who beat Mississippi State, and they look good doing it. And we'll see what happens with Lane Kiffin, who I don't think the decision was expected today. I was expecting it to come down today, and I know what was expected in that regard. But the fact that he hasn't announced it yet, I'm just double checking here in case I missed something, because I've been flying around doing a lot and focusing on Oregon. But yeah, it doesn't look like he's made a decision yet, and that could mean a late change for him. He could be changing his mind. Just keep an eye on that. But anyway, Oregon coming in at number 6 into this week. They go on the road, beat a team that was 8-3, fringe top 25. I had them in my top 25 over Locked On College Football because the back end of the top 25 is just not all that struck, because I know they've got the loss to Wisconsin, and that's not very good. Well, guess what? Washington's a good team. Not a great team, but a good team, like USC. Oregon beat 2 good teams, 3 good teams, and 1 okay team in the month of November. Like, they showed up in that gauntlet, and they went and played their best football. And I think Oregon's playing some really good football that can cover a lot of different bases and win in a lot of different ways. Anyway, bringing this back to the playoff discussion. So, Oregon comes into this week as the 6th seed. I don't think they are likely to move after today. I don't think that is likely. Now, if they remain the 6th seed, their most likely opponent is the ACC champion. That will depend on whether Cal can beat SMU, or SMU beat Cal, rather, or whether Virginia beats Virginia Tech. Now, if one of those teams, if they both win, they will be in, and it'd be one of those teams, because then the 12 seed will be the group of 5 spot. If Virginia, who's beating Virginia Tech 14-0 as I record this show, or SMU, who's only beating Cal 7-3 in the second quarter, if just hear me out. If they lose, I'd have to review the championship game scenarios. Actually, I can pull them up right here. We got time on the live show. There's a scenario where Miami could make the ACC championship game. They could win it, automatically get in, and be the 11 seed. And Mario would come back to Autzen. I'm just saying that scenario is possible. It is not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. I got to find the text because Alex Dono of Locked On ACC sent me this wonderful, wonderful graphic. Okay. The scenarios that would see Miami make the ACC championship game. They have to win, which they did. SMU would have to win, Duke loss, or Virginia loss. I'm pretty sure Duke won. Duke did, in fact, beat Wake Forest. So that scenario's out. Win, Virginia win, Duke loss, nope. Win, Duke win, Virginia loss, SMU loss, NC State win. NC State is currently beating North Carolina. So that scenario is possible. Win, SMU loss, Duke loss. Okay, so if Virginia loses and SMU loses and NC State holds on, Miami will make the ACC championship game. That's the scenario. Again, as I'm recording the show, by the time you're listening or watching, it might have changed by that time. So I'm good with Oregon having either the 5 or 6 seed if they were to somehow wind up with the 4, then there would be no game at Autzen. And it'd be like last year where it'd be an even longer layoff, actually, because Oregon would have a first round bye and not play in the Big Ten championship game because Ohio State beat Michigan. So Ohio State and Indiana are going to the Big Ten championship game, which means next to nothing because that's the college football world we've created. And that's fine. I mean, it's not, but whatever. So Oregon is guaranteed to be in. It's just a question of whether they will be seeded 5th or 6th. And that could depend on how conference championship weekend actually goes, particularly in the Big 12. But I would like for Oregon to be the 5 seed or the 6 seed and play the ACC champion or the Group of 5 champion. Because the year after Oregon got screwed by the seeding process last year, they fixed it. And now the higher seeded teams are actually just playing the lower seeded teams. And we don't have, like last year, the Group of 5 champ is ranked higher than the ACC champ. So they get a first round bye and creates all that ridiculousness. This is the greatest sport in the world and is governed by buffoons. It's truly incredible. But hey, it makes a lot of money, so it endures. But that's what I would like to have happen. Is Oregon up? Cal just took the lead against SMU. Here we go, Jim. Here we go, Jim. I would like for Oregon to get a home playoff game. I think the spectacle at Autzen would be amazing. I think it gives them a great chance, obviously, to win when they're at home. They wouldn't be playing one of the better teams that's into the field. Like they'd be playing, if you have the 5 or 6 seed, you're going up against a team that's only in the field because there is, in all likelihood, this is, again, in all likelihood, a lot of stuff can change. They'd only be there because there's an automatic berth, not because they're one of the 12 highest ranked teams, which is why I'm firmly against auto bids, but I don't make the rules. I should, but I don't. So I think that kind of puts a bow on this one. Just an awesome win by Dan Lanning, Dante Moore, and the Ducks. And I'll have plenty more thoughts as the week goes on. We'll see what the fallout is and how it all shakes out. There's a world where Alabama and Kalen DeBoer are coming to Autzen Stadium too. Maybe the ACC champ would be ranked higher than a 10-3 Bama, which is feasible because they could beat Auburn, but then lose the SEC championship game to Georgia. So it's all up in the air. It really is all up in the air. Or maybe, let me throw this one at you as well. A lot of different scenarios that are realistic. If Bama loses to Auburn, they're up 10-0 as I record this show. If Bama loses to Auburn, then Ole Miss goes to the SEC championship game. If they win, they will definitely go back ahead of Oregon. Would Georgia drop below them? Below Oregon, I mean. I don't know. That could see Oregon fall back to the 7 seed and they play the 10 seed, which would be, we don't really know, maybe Notre Dame. But regardless, 5, 6, 7, 8, any one of those seeds, Oregon has a home playoff game. That's what I would really like. So not just because I get to go, because I think it'd be awesome for the fans. I think it'd be awesome for Eugene. And I also think it gives Oregon a great chance to ignite themselves into a playoff run. They're playing good football right now. They played a good game today. Wasn't perfect, rarely is. You win by more than 10 on the road against a good team in a rivalry game, you take that every day of the week and twice on Saturday. So I'll wrap the live stream there. 630 you watching live right now. Thank you all so much. So send me all your thoughts. I have probably no less than 30 messages to get back to. I should get on that. So I'm going to do that. Appreciate everyone listening. See you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And go Ducks.